everyone, it's Julia. Welcome back to my channel. I've been working on making some fabric textile jewelry, and I thought I would show you how I've been doing these woven textile pendants. I'm having a lot of fun with it. You're able to use a lot of scraps and just different things that you have on hand. I do have a little summer shop up in Minnesota that's in with the flea market, and a lot of my customers really like jewelry. It's easy to pack if they're on vacation and to take with them so they have a little bit of something. But I still like to use textiles and fibers in them because that's what I do. And so these I think will be just a nice addition to that. Also have some in my Etsy shop as well. Just to show you a few examples, and at the end of this video I'll have some other pictures of other ones that I have made and recently sold, but I still have pictures so you can see them. They all turn out, like I said, so differently. This one has a fabric bead on top. I make my fabric beads with just a plastic straw in them. This one dangles from a vintage key. And the backs I do back with the felt. That backing is nice because it hides things and it also gives it a little bit of more structure to them. So I'll show you some of the things that you need. A lot of it, most of it is things you might have on hand already. So let's get started. For the loom itself, I used a piece of cardboard. It needs to be rigid, and so find a piece of cardboard that has some strength to it. I found like a chipboard or like a cereal box is not quite sturdy enough, but this is just a piece of packing type cardboard. It measures 3 inches across by 6 inches, and I found that's a good size for these pendants. I've been able to use the same loom for several different pendants. Eventually they're going to wear out and you'll have to cut a new one, but you can get several out of one. The fabrics that I like to use are fabrics that are the same on both front and back. These are batiks that I'm going to be using for this one. This is not a batik, but it does have the same color on both sides. I'm also going to be throwing in a little bit of yarn and fibers, and this is a metallic yarn or ribbon that I have that I'll be adding to it. I like to add a focal point. For instance, this one has a little peace sign on it. This one has the focal point as the key, and then I scattered some beads on it throughout also. But on this particular one, I'm going to be using this button as a focal point. I might be adding some beads, and so I have some beads out here. A little crochet hook comes in handy. I have that. A washi tape or a masking tape you're going to need. I'm going to be extending this one just on the chain, and I'm using a ball chain for this. This is a large ball chain in color black. Another thing that's useful to have is a large eyed needle, like a tapestry needle or a bodkin. I have neither of them here, but so I'm going to be using just a safety pin to weave to get it in, to get my fibers in and out, and I'll show you that step. That's about, I think, all you're going to need for this project. I'm going to be doing just some preparing of my fabrics just by ripping approximately a 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch strips. To make your loom, what I did was I started by drawing a line in the center of my cardboard and just drew a line straight down using a marker. And then on every 1/4 of an inch on either side of that, I drew another line until I had 10 lines total. And then I took my scissor and just did a little bit of a snip into each one, approximately of a 1/4 of an inch. And that's it for this. It's easy, it's quick. And then you can start filling in your vertical line. I'm just using yarn for this, but you can use like a cording or a heavy thread, or possibly even like a DMC floss would work for that. and just on one end, starting on one end, and just putting that yarn right in those little slits. Then I'm going to add a piece of tape to the back of this just to keep that in place. Now it's on to doing the weaving. I'm going to just use my safety pin. I like to tie the end of this onto one of the middle strands. Now these knots can easily be worked into the back side if you do not want them to show on the front side. And then that piece of felt will cover that up, those knots, to make it look neat on the back side as well. Now for instance, this one, I took all my knots to the back side, except for, I don't know if you can even see it, but there's a knot right here, and I like that. It just added a dimension right there, so I kept that one to the front. So you can decide on that. Now I'm going to take this end and put it under all of these so that I can start on one side. So it's just going underneath here and pulling this through. Moving everything to the top. And now I can start my weaving. I'm going to take my little yarn, or this is fabric, and it is going to be going over, under, just like we used to do in the craft session of camp. Over, under, and then get everything through, and then just push everything to the top so it's nice and tight. And then going back through again, just the opposite. So this one I am going over, under. Again, pushing everything up and then continuing with this for as long as you want this color. And then when I want another color, I just tie a knot again. And it doesn't matter where the knot is, because like I mentioned, I just work those to the back after I'm done with my project. So I'm going to go ahead and continue this. I'll stop and show you when I'm adding a new color and adding the knot. I've got about an inch or so of this first fabric in, and I'm going to tie my knot and add a solid color here. And then I'm just going to continue on in the same way. And wherever that knot ends up is fine. I'll just, like I mentioned before, work it to the back if I want it to the back. As I'm working, it always tends to draw in a bit. It's probably just because this is a cardboard loom, but it's okay on the pendants that they taper in a little bit at the bottom. So I just wanted to point that out. I'm ready to add one more knot. I'm going to just add this metallic ribbon that I have. And we'll be continuing on again at this on the same fashion. I've got the final rows on, and I'm just tying a knot on the last one of my strands here, and then I'm just going to clip this off. Now I flip it over, and you cut, let me get this piece of tape out of here, right in the center of the cords to get it free from the cardboard. Now I'm pairing up my cords. You're going to have 10 strands, and I just pair them up in twos and tie a knot. That's going to keep everything from unraveling. For the top of these, I'm also going to be tying the knots, but I'm going to add a bead. This is a bead with a wide hole in it, or a large hole. I put it right on top of my little crochet hook and then pull through. And again, tie a knot once the bead is in place. And I'm going to continue adding the beads to these. So I'll have a total of 5 beads going across the top of this. I have my beads in place. Now I'm cutting 30 inches of this ball chain. I like these to have a longer, just a longer length to them. 30 inches I find works really well. Finding the center of this. And then I just lay this ball chain on the top of this, and I tie these on either side of the ball string so it's attached to the ball chain right in the middle of these balls that are on the chain. I start with the center one and get that one on, and then the other ones are easier to get on. The center one is on, and I'm going to have this tail, and I do work that into the back with my crochet hook. And doing the same thing again, just laying this ball chain. Now when I did the other 2 examples that I showed you, I did them the same way. But this one I tied, instead of the chain, I tied it onto the key. And this one, I tied the yarn right on to this fiber bead. I'm taking my crochet hook, going underneath, I'm on the back of my piece here, going underneath some of the fabrics, and then pulling these yarns that I've tied off, and working them in. And this is, like I said, the back of it, and so that felt is going to cover this. I just want to get them a little bit more secured in the back. Likewise, if there's any knots on the front that I don't want, here's a knot, and I'm going to try just to get that one worked to the back also. I've got everything worked to the back now, and I'm going to add my button first. I did find this little, it's a timeless face that was laying on my table, but I think I am going to stick with the button. It just really pops with the black cord. So I'm going to add that, and then we'll go on and add the felt. I have my piece of felt. I'm just laying this on the top. Just draw around the piece so I get an idea of what I need to cut out of this felt. I'm using a fabric tack glue. This is my favorite glue for fabric. It dries very quickly and it's very sticky. So it grabs on and it works really well for this application. I would recommend this type of glue. And I'm just dabbing it on, making sure that the edges are covered. And goodbye messy back. Just get everything tucked in. Once this is dry, it really adds a nice structure to the back of the piece. And what I'm going to do in front of my TV tonight is whip stitch this down. I do sew all the way around the edges to give it a homespun look, but also just to really keep those edges laying flat. And there's the piece. It's so fun. I might tie this at the bottom. I think I did that with a couple of these. Or I might leave them flat or straight and just trim them. Haven't quite decided yet on that. There is ends to this ball chain. These are so nice. I'm going to demonstrate this because these are the slickest things. I'll put my link down below where I get my ball chain. If any of you are interested in making these for craft shows or whatever. But these are adjustable. So the larger, this is like, I believe, a 10 millimeter, and these are adjustable by you see how I'm doing that? You can just, at whatever length you want, and then you can just pop it. Of course, I'm having problems. whatever length you want, then you can just pop it, and this would hang down the back of your neck. So if you needed a shorter length, you can easily do it without cutting the chain shorter. So that's slick, and I'll have that mentioned down below for you. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Thank you so much, everybody who's joined me today, and happy creating.